So I'm watching my good buddy Nick Haynes on Kansas City PBS Week in Review, and they were talking about, of course, the World Cup coming to Kansas City next summer. And I want to share a report that Dave Helling, formerly of the Kansas City Star, shared on the show. And this is just Dave's reporting, so I'm not sharing this to be critical of him at all, but I will be critical of those who believe that the Kansas City World Cup will not be a success in some way, shape, and form because of President Trump and this administration. So here's the report from Kansas City PBS Week in Review over the weekend.
I think you're going to hear chatter, Nick, at least I'm hearing some of it already, that the demand for services will be less than Kansas City expects because of the immigration posture of the current administration. And if there's a feeling abroad that you risk your freedom or some intervention from the government if you come to Kansas City or any of the venues for the World Cup and you get in trouble and you get shipped off to some prison in El Salvador, that they're just not going to come. And I think there is low-level chatter that maybe this won't be the great boon that everyone expects, in part because we are so apparently unwelcoming to visitors.
What are we talking about?
Exactly. All right. So, once again, that is Dave Helling's reporting, and that's just him saying this is what I'm hearing from people around town. So I'm not going to knock his reporting. I'm sure I know he obviously has really good sources, having done this forever.
Low level.
Around Kansas City. But if this is something that is getting seeded in the mindset of Kansas Cityans, that suddenly we are not going to have the boom that we thought we were going to have, courtesy of the World Cup, and we're conveniently going to blame the orange man for that. Because, well, these foreigners may come to Kansas City, and before you know it, they're in an orange jumpsuit in an El Salvadoran prison. They're not going to waste their money or their time, John. That is a bunch of nonsense. And anybody who is believing that for a second is a sucker and a half, man.
Low-level sources are usually the coffee shop, down at the bar, or something like that. Like, you don't have to move here to come to see a game. So newsflash, there's going to be a lot of non-citizens in Kansas City during that time.
Yeah, and you know what? Unless you break the law or something, or you stay too long or whatever it might be, nothing's going to happen to you.
I had to tell my brother-in-law about that because he was talking about the same thing. He's like, yeah, there might be some flight restrictions. I'm like, you know what? The people that are coming here are going to be wealthy, most likely, and they're probably not going to be causing trouble. If they are, they're going to get thrown in jail. They're not going to go to El Salvador, though.
Yeah, you're not getting poor criminals coming to watch the World Cup at a price point of $1,500 per game for a ticket. Okay? That's not who this crowd is. Knock it off, please. So when I hear this, I think what's going on here is the following. We were sold, just like the NFL draft, although that's a little bit different, we were sold the moon and the stars. And if we don't get that, the convenient excuse for some, not all, but for some, may very well be, well, if we didn't have Trump here, this thing would have really knocked it out of the park. But because of Orange Man and because of immigration policies, people were afraid to come to the United States for the World Cup. That's why this thing didn't work out like we thought it would. And there's no way to disprove that. I mean, there is if you have common sense. But there's no analytical, numbers-driven way you can technically disprove it, and that's where it could become a very convenient excuse for some people.
No path to the World Cup involves crossing the Rio. There's 320-plus ports of entry that all these people will be using to get in. So,
I'm just picturing them, running across the Rio Grande and then hitchhiking their way up to Kansas City for a couple of games. It's like
all with
that.
Their team scarves and flags.
Yeah. And we got ICE chasing them up 35. It's, 1,000 miles to Kansas City. Come on.
The Venezuelans are pointing at the Mexicans. Mexicans are pointing at the El Salvadorans. They're over there.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
And it depends on what teams we have here.
Yes, that's a big part of it as well, right? That's a huge part of it. But I saw that and my mind just exploded. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. They're really going to lay the foundation for this? And I'm not saying it's coming from the World Cup folks. And I'm not even knocking Dave because it's just, here's what he's hearing from people around town. It's just his reporting. But people will share things with important newsmakers in Kansas City to start seeding a narrative and a storyline. And my job is to quickly call BS on that narrative the minute I hear it. And I'm glad I happened to hear that one over the weekend. So I can call the BS on it right away.
Who among us hasn't created some thought and thought, oh, this is a golden nugget here? Yeah. We get a lot of those on Monday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, on the text line, 913-408-7957. So, Pete, does Trump get credit when it's a massive success? No. It'll be a massive success in spite of him, even though it was during Trump 1.0 that this World Cup thing started. Like, that was during his first administration. That's it. Also on the text line, Pete, will this be the same boom like we got from the NFL draft? Well, here's the thing. One thing we learned about the NFL draft, most people that are going to enjoy the NFL draft, as we learned, were Kansas Cityans. Yes, some people came from out of town. They turned it into a boys' weekend, whatever it might be. But the vast majority of those who are enjoying the NFL draft with that thing now moving around city to city every year are those who live in that community, for the most part. Definitely some out-of-towners, but for the most part, it's just people from the area going to watch, a once-in-a-lifetime experience, the NFL draft. But I will never forget the lady who ran a small boutique, maybe she still does, down in Crown Center, and was like, I thought I was going to have all this business and nobody showed up. I mean, lady, you're selling sundresses to an audience that's not really interested in sundresses. Okay, it's the NFL draft crowd. They're not buying sundresses.
I believe that was before Taylor Swift. Otherwise, she might have got some extra business.
Yeah, she might have done well. You're right. In a post-Taylor Swift era. But I do believe the World Cup will be much better than what the NFL draft was when it comes to out-of-towners. I mean, just because it can't be any worse. But it may also not be what you heard from local, statewide, and national officials it was going to be. Francis in Olathe, what's up, my man?
Hey, Mundo. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. What's happening?
Okay, so I'm a foreign, as you say, as I am a U.S. citizen at the same time. And I'm going to tell you the truth. At least from where I'm from, Brazil, people are afraid of traveling. And I'm not talking about the middle class. I'm talking about the wealthy class, as I know. Because now, the conception is people are going to get here in the airport and they're going to be taken to a room, and be, basically strip down and check everything from the phone to the entire life. And, even though they're wealthy, as you mentioned, as I was hearing you, they do go into this process. I work as an Uber driver in the end of the week, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I've been talking to many foreigners that are coming from Europe, coming from Brazil, coming from South America and everywhere. And they are saying basically that they going through a very screening process like they've never been before, even in the first, administration of Trump. And that's why it's kind of it's true, and I can basically tell you so many stories that I've been hearing from people that come from outside, that they have an experience that they have never before, like asking 20 different questions instead of like a 2 question. Someone that I spoke last week said they asked them to check the phone, open the phone and check it. Others say they stay about 20 minutes in the room just talking to them. It's not that bad, but at the same time, yes, it's being happened. And if you talk to many Uber drivers that basically speak English at least, they will say exactly the same. That we have a lot of experience with people from outside that's saying that it's really hard even though they have a visa for they work for a company here in America, but they are from outside. And when they get here, they begin asking questions that they never asked before because they come with, the specific visa from that company in particular, but they're still asking question about it.
So this is when they land in the United States, not really in Kansas City because we don't have a lot of direct international flights, but when they land in whatever hub they are in the United States, you're telling me that over the last 3 months, the screening process has been more intense.
Yes, correct.
But they've also gotten to where they needed to get to. They've just gone through a little more of an extensive process to get here.
Yes, but at the same time, if you check a stupid thing like a YouTube, you're going to be see millions of videos that people like wealthy family that came to America unfortunately sent back because of a small thing, like a stupid small thing.
Yeah.
So you do have both the sides, and again, I listen to you guys every day, and I love it. But at the same time, like many things that you guys saying, you can check in stupid like YouTube. You can see millions of videos of that exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So you're saying so it's kind of like anything else, where social media will amplify some video of some person who, whatever, something happened to him, right, and then that basically becomes the standard where everybody thinks that thing is going to happen to them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Interesting. So it's kind of, Francis, thank you for sharing that. I do appreciate that, my man.
Absolutely.
Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
So that's interesting because it's kind of like, when you see a viral video of, God forbid, something happening with a cop and a civilian. Right? Everyone then thinks, well, that's going to happen to me or that's happening to everybody if a video goes viral on YouTube. So I get what he's saying there. I do understand what he's saying. But do I think that people of serious means are going to forego a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with the way that these countries and their citizens love themselves some World Cup? Are they actually not going to do it next summer, especially when a lot of this stuff calms down? Because and I know these first 90, 100, 150 days, get a lot of headlines, get a lot of fear-mongering. By next summer, when a lot of this has calmed down, do I believe that people are going to forego a trip to the United States for the World Cup because of Trump, because of this administration? I don't buy it. Now, maybe Francis is on to something there, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out.